على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
إن شاء الله حنكون نتكلم باللغة الإنجليزية إذا تسمحوا لنا. حبينا نسأل يعني إذا يكون إنجليزي أحسن من الفرنسي. إذا إنجليزي أحسن رفعوا يديكم. إنجليزي على حد يشوف الناس. On va malheureusement parler en anglais, alors tous ceux qui ne parlent que français. Qui comprend pas l'anglais? Qui comprend pas l'anglais, lève la main. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كان الناس أمة واحدة فبعث الله النبيين مبشرين ومنذرين. كان الناس أمة واحدة فبعث الله النبيين مبشرين ومنذرين وأنزل معهم الكتاب بالحق وأنزل معهم الكتاب بالحق ليحكم بين الناس فيما اختلفوا فيه وما اختلف فيه إلا الذين أوتوا من بعد ما جاءتهم البينات بغيا بينهم فهدى الله الذين آمنوا لما اختلفوا فيه من الحق بإذنه والله يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 213, mankind was one religion before their definition. So mankind was one religion or one ummah, one nation. Then Allah sent the prophets as bringers of good tidings and warners and sent down with them the scripture or the book in truth to judge between the people concerning that in which they differed. And none differed over the scripture except those who were giving it. After the clear proofs came to them out of jealous animosity among themselves, and Allah guided those who believed to the truth concerning that over which they had deferred by His permission, and Allah guides whom He wills to a straight path. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Dearest elders, brothers, dearest mothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is my pleasure to be in this auspicious gathering along with my esteemed brothers, Brother Reza Farashta and Brother Muhammad Kalam, whom I learned many things from, and I am the least person to be able to transmit anything of my own, whatever inshallah you see fit from things that I have to say is from Allah, and any mistakes I hope Allah can correct them are for me. Inshallah, the topic of our discussion, and inshallah it can be of use to our elders that I understand are here merely to support us, because I know that this can be only a tadhkara for them, because they have much to teach us, is concerning community. Community, as far as we can look at it from the Quran, from the Holy Quran. Before we can delve into kind of addressing the topic, I think we need to first determine some definitions, as it is customary, and so we can better understand what we're talking about. If at any moment there are any questions, please raise your hands and we can clarify before we get into more difficulties, I guess. So if any turbulence, fasten your seats and let us know so we can, make things more clear. So, community as we understand it in English comes from Latin. Okay, and those who have studied linguistics and more languages, if we go back to the etymology, meaning the roots of the word, we can go back to its origin. And the origin of the word community is from Latin. As you know, our languages in French and English are based on Latin and Greek and other languages, but mostly from these two. And community in Latin is communis. And this means basically common, public, shared by all or many people. So something that's common and that's shared by either many or everybody. So that's what communis really means. And there's another word that's very close to community, and that is communitatus. Nobody speaks like this anymore. But communitatus is made of three roots. And in Arabic we'll see as well that words are made of roots, like trees, they have roots. And when these roots basically get into their trunks, they can give many branches, and many branches of meaning. So the same thing is present in the English language. So communitatus, which basically is the Latin word for community, has a prefix which is com, and it means to be together or to be with. Okay, so there is something that, it's opposite to the individual, as when we talk about community. The second word is munis, so we have com, which is to be with or together. Then you have munis, or munis, which is from Indo-European origin, and it means the changes or exchanges, so the rapport that we can have, that link those people who are together. Okay, so we have people together, or who are sharing something, and they're exchanging something, either an idea or a certain good. And the suffix of the word, which is also Latin, which is tatus, is a diminutive or a small for something that's intimate or that's local. So what we see to be in community is people who are together, those people share something, and they seem to be intimate in the things that they're sharing. In the Arabic language and in the language of the Quran, we have the word ummah, which is basically the translation of community, or community is a translation of ummah. Ummah comes from a root, and I hope I'm not boring you all. Ummah comes from amama, which is the root. From these three letters, we have different roots that are used in the Quran, about 10 or so. And the root in the Quran is used 119 times. Okay? 119. And of those 119, 64 of them are under the form ummah, which has about 4 meanings. So from the root, if we take the branch of ummah, because we have which is what? What's mother, right? So we're not very far from that meaning either. So ummah is the first thread of meaning means a way, a course, a manner of acting. In Arabic, they also say shar'a. The second thread of meaning for ummah is actually a religion or the followers of a prophet. That's why we're known as Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Christians are Ummah of Isa alayhi salam. And our Jewish friends and brothers are Ummah Musa. The third thread of meaning are nations, peoples, race, tribe, but really a distinct body of people. And that reminds us of the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he talks of mu'mineen as being part of the same body, right? Anyone can complete this hadith for us? So he says, my ummah are like a complete body. If there is one part of it that feels pain, right? If one part of it aches or is sick, the other parts, what are they going to do? They're going to feel that sickness or that pain. So this comes back to the idea that ummah is like a distinct body, either of people or people who share something. So the fourth, concluding point of ummah is collective body of living beings. When we turn to the Quran and we want to understand a certain concept, the Quran has a beautiful way of using the word in different contexts or repeating certain things to put emphasis. So we want to know, what's an ummah, or how Allah uses the word ummah in different verses of the Quran. I'm going to read the verses quickly and their translation without giving any tafsir. Obviously, we could go very, very deep. So Allah says in Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter 22, verse 92, إِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَأَنَا رَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُونِ. Allah says, your ummah is actually one ummah, and I am your Lord, so worship me. This is very similar to the ayah that I recited at the beginning, which said that Allah says, mankind were of one ummah, of one tribe, of one nation. Here they translate it as one religion. So they are very interestingly connected. And it's interesting that Quran doesn't use the word ummah only to refer to the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or to design people as religious people. Allah uses it to design the different groups that are going to come on the day of judgment, that you can also have ummah that are evil or that have taken another path. Okay? So you have to make sure that the community that you are part of is actually the community that follows haqq, and we'll see how the Quran presents those. So in Surah Al-A'raf, verse 38, Allah says, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال ادخلوا في قد خلت من قبلكم من الجن والإنس في النار. So unfortunately these are going to be the that go to hellfire because of what they have done. كلما دخلت أمة لعنت أختها. Whenever an ummah enters, you can imagine how these have been, troublemakers. It's again you, so they curse them. They don't have a nice language. These are going to be the people of Jahannam. And this is unfortunate for them because all they do is just curse each other. Whereas the people who are going to be in Jannah, what are they going to say? They're going to be salam. Whatever they say in Jannah, it's salam, peace. Whereas, the other side. But these are communities that enter, and one community basically curses the other. So we don't have only community as being a good thing, or actually what defines a community is what they do, right? Because Allah will put them either in Jannah or hell because of what they did, right? So we can have a community of good people that do good things, or a community of bad, or bad. So now we enter an interesting verse in Surah Al-Imran, so chapter 3, ayah 104, where Allah basically is commanding us what kind of community should we be, right? And what should we do to kind of deserve that title of good community. Allah says, Rahman Rahim, وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. These are going to be the successful ones. And let there be from you a nation, an ummah, inviting to what's good and enjoining what's right and forbidding what's evil, what's wrong, and those will be the successful ones. So Allah is calling for a community that enjoin good. Whenever there's something good, they applaud it, they join it, they support it. Even if this good is done by non-Muslims or people who are non-religious, we can support them because they're really doing something good. And whenever they see something bad, they recognize that this thing is evil and bad, and they forbid it. They try to stop that. And the Prophet also has a saying, if you see something evil or bad, try to change it with your hand. Try to bring an action that counters that or stops that bad action, or speak against it. If you can't do any of that, you can just feel bad in your heart. But that's not very effective, the Prophet says. I'm paraphrasing here, of course. And the Prophet, the Quran also, Allah speaks in the Quran about, continuously about ummatun ta'mur bil ma'ruf wa tanha 'anil munkar. A lot of repetition to emphasize the importance of this thought and of this objective. And just to conclude that whenever we, inshallah, if we do all of that, and inshallah we are doing this, aligning ourselves with what's good and forbidding and trying to stop what's bad, we should also pray for ourselves and for our brothers and sisters to always do that. And our grandfather, the champion of Islam, of monotheism, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, has a beautiful dua, and Allah is not a coincidence that He quotes him a lot in the Quran whenever he makes dua. And so in chapter 2, in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 128, he says, رَبَّنَا وَجْعَلْنَا مُسْلِمَيْنِ لَكَ, with his son Ismail. He says, and our Lord, and make us Muslims to you and from our descendants, for people who will come from our children, a Muslim nation. رَبَّنَا وَجْعَلْنَا مُسْلِمَيْنِ لَكَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِنَا أُمَّةً مُسْلِمَةً لَكَ وَأَرِنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا. O Allah, make us, me and my son, two Muslims for you, two people who submit to you, and make of our descendants people who are submitted to you, and show us our rights, show us our rituals, show us the things that you like us to do. Show us basically a way to be good, enjoy goodness. Indeed, you are the accepting of repentance and merciful. So not only, we recognize that as an individual we have certain responsibilities, we have rights, but we also have responsibilities concerning our moral code, concerning what we do in private, but also what we do in public. But as a community, we have to enjoin what's good and forbid what's evil. I just want to quote other ayat that are very, very important in kind of nailing down that concept of community. And actually, in community, something that I didn't talk about is unity. So people who are united, who are tight-knit, and who do certain things that defines them. Allah talks about a lot of these people as Ya Ahlilbait amanu. He defines this group as people who believe in Him. So what does He say to everybody? Allah says in Surah Al-Imran, verse 103, and I'm gonna just skim through it. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold tight to the rope of Allah and do never disunite. So this is the first verse, and I'm going through them quickly, just to, inshallah, my brothers will build on the verses that I mentioned. And at the end of Surah Al-Imran, Al-Imran is full of these verses, by the way, about community, and it's the family of Imran, right? The family from which Prophet Jesus came, right? So the last ayah, the last concluding ayah of this chapter is beautiful in saying, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. All those who believe, right? So this is the select group by which the ummah needs to be defined. The fact that they believe in Allah. When they believe, what should we do? We should be patient, and you should exercise patience as a community. وَصَابِرُ, and be patient as a community. Help each other by being patient. وَرَابِطُ, and be steadfast. Be tight-knit. We can do this. We can, come on, we can do this. So be helpful in each other, to be patient and steadfast and do istiqamah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, and be mindful of Allah, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, so that you may be successful. Again, we saw in the other ayah how we can be successful is by doing good, enjoining good, and forbidding evil. Last surah is, everyone can recite it, is Surah Al-Asr. And again, we go back to the idea of patience. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And inshallah, we can not only memorize the surah that's really full of meaning and very deep, but we can also exercise it and practice it along with all the ayat of the Quran. So I'm going to pass the mic to my brother Muhammad Kawan. Thank you for coming to listen.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. So the translation of just the last few wording, indeed he was unjust and ignorant. So I'm going to stand up. So I'm going to present on anti-community. What goes against the community? No, so Mostafa. So picture. No, this one. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to present what's anti-community. Any of you guys play Clash Royale? I think a lot of youngsters play. I do play too, and I have many of the grandkids with the same group, and I play with them. So basically this is Clash Royale. I'm not introducing it, but it's an example of anti-community. Not because of the kids playing over the iPhone, not because of only the kids playing over the iPhone or adult people like me, but it's also a descriptive of our society. So we live in a society that is based on economy, basically. So Clash Royale is owned by Supercell, and it's a Finnish company, so it comes from Finland. Its total income, revenues is much more. Total revenues just last year is 8.45 million euros, and doing a great work, and it's known for other game platforms. So what's about that is anti-community? So in Clash Royale there's a user, which is me, and there's a creator, which is the company. The company wants to make more money out of the users, or out of what extra comes with the users. So publicity, da'ayat, etc., etc., etc. We live in a society that is based on an economic system, and we need to know that. And that is the major factor that is anti-community, basically. So, what does it require from our society? So, like if I take myself, I wake up at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., pray early morning prayer, and then just before 5, and then prepare my lunch, go to work at 7 a.m., at 6, heading towards heavy traffic early morning on both the Metropolitan and the Carry, and heading to the hospital, working 8-hour shift, coming back home, taking roughly 45 minutes to go back home. So going back home, I eat, sit with the kids, or maybe I go to head to sometimes my second job, which is a private job. And then by, let's say, 7 o'clock, I come back, I do some extra work at home, depending on the time, and then at 8 I prepare for prayer, I pray with the kids sometimes, and then I go back to sleep. So that's my usual day. I play differently. Well, there's a reason I play, not because I do enjoy playing games, but there's also another reason I play that. So we live in a system that dictates what we do, basically. So it's a routine that has been dictated to us indirectly. We live in a free world that says free and modern, but in reality we're all being dictated how to do, how to think, how to work. Even when you look at TV and all the different definitions that they produce. So when you ask a kid in the streets or even here, and you tell him what's knowledge, and he's going to tell you, well, it's education. I go to school to get knowledge. Well, that's not Islamic knowledge. Islamic knowledge is basically knowing yourself, knowing God, and then by knowing yourself and knowing God, you're going to know the reason you're here. So everything becomes a tool at the end. The knowledge that you go to school, it's a tool for you to use, rather than it's an aim for you. The money that you gain at work, it's also a tool. The relationships are also a tool. It's a tool to grow up towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, we I can't say community, but maybe the youth especially have difficulties to understand the idea of the system and the idea what the system leads and what the system wants from us and how the system consumes our relationship, consumes money, consumes time, and basically consumes humans, us. Because I have some colleagues at work, and one of the colleagues is retiring. So basically, she has 2 kids, and she's grateful. She worked for at least 35 years. But at the end, most of the people that I see at work, they have nothing other than their work. Their kids are gone. I hope this is not registered. But their kids are gone, they probably don't see them, or some they do, but not that much. So other than that, they only have as kind of guidance, it's what they work for. So they work within a company, a lab, a hospital, or whatever, but at the end, after 35 years of service, the person may seem unstable because he feels he lost everything, he has so much time, he doesn't know what to do, and he feels lost. And that's unfortunate. So I can develop on that more, but this is not the point. The point is just to bring this up to some of the Shabab and some of the elders and to myself. So to the extent, so to the extent, the most recent book by Naomi Klein that I just read about, it says the shock doctrine of the use of capitalism. So basically, shock doctrine of the use of disaster capitalism. So basically, even when there's a disaster, somewhere in the world, there's an earthquake, capitalism is there to use that in order to gain money. If you want to read about that book, it's very interesting. So it's the human factor, the fi sabilillah is not kind of there. So developing on that. So this is said, that's a major obstacle. So I want to talk about sources. Imam Zayn al-Abidin points this out a bit in his famous munajat, which I pretty much like. And he mentions إلهي أسكنتنا دارا حفرت لنا حفرة مكرها. O Lord, you have settled us in an abad, a place of residence, which has dug pits of deception. Those who seek that world, there's nothing in it. It's a pit. It's حفرة. وعلقتنا بأيدي المنايا بحبائل غدرها, which have tied us, that world, have tied us to wishes, to wants, which entangles us with the snares of treachery. So there's an entangle us. There's wishes that I like that, I want this, and especially when you're more a child, and well, I want an Xbox, then an Xbox 360, then an Xbox One, then Xbox One Slim, then Xbox X and XX, whatever stuff like. So basically, we live in a world of wants rather than living in a world of needs, and there is a difference in there. When you want thing and when you need thing. When you want thing, it's not because you need it. You need to eat, but you don't need a system to play. That's just an extra. And the problem with the extra is that when you live in a society that is based on economy and based on feeding you information and feeding you products to buy, and with a huge marketing system, they're pushing you to buy, to consume, to be a consumer, to the maximum. So whenever you walk maybe on the street, you see different ads, You see people talking about, you see cell phone, everybody has cell phones, even the small kids. You see a lot of things. These are social pressures, and it's pushing you to do that. But in reality, a Muslim requires to resist some of this. So Imam Zain al-Abidin describes this world in his dua. فإنها المهلكة طلابها المتلفة حلالها المحشوة بالآفات المشحونة بالنكبات. So the seeker, those who seek asylum, so we seek asylum from Allah, to Allah from these deceptive tricks of this world. Since this world destroys the pursuer, ruins its settlers, and stuff will blight, basically ruins the values of success. So success is measured now by how much I earn, how much I gain, how much I have, what kind of car I have, if I have 2 laptops, 3 laptops, if I have an Xbox 360, if I have a cell phone 7S or whatever cell phone. Success becomes that, rather than the Muslim success or the Islamic success. So now what are the sources of guidance we have? So one would ask, okay, with all this, what are the sources of guidance? Allah also subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'll come back to the source of guidance, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes also to mention different ayat. I'm gonna go skim through just the most important part of those ayat. Basically in Surah Al-Isra, Surah Al-Ahzab, and Surah Al-Kahf. So Al-Isra has 3 of those ayat. And he mentions Al-Insan. وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ قَتُورًا, stingy. So bakhil, extremely. So basically he wants gains, any material gains, you want to gain it, you want to keep it. So you see maybe people with different kind of hobbies, and I remember working in souvenir with Sayyid Abu Maram a while ago. So I remember people buying Beanie Babies, like hell. Like they buy a Beanie Baby, like this little toy, $300, $500, and they collect them. Okay, so these are examples of possession. We talk about different industries, how it's still like selling movies. I speak with INET, if you guys know, former boss Ala. Why do people buy movies? Because they want to possess that, in reality, that fake possession. وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ كَفُورًا, ungrateful. So basically, once he knows the truth, he kind of hides. Because the truth is kind of difficult. If you live in a consumptive way, the truth becomes difficult for you. Okay, and the last one, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرُ شَيْءٌ جَدَلًا. So the jadal is the dispute, but what makes the dispute is all this chatter, the background noise. The background noise that we hear from TV, from pressure at school, from different advertisement done on buses, metro, etc. All this are background noise, meaning that it feeds us information to incite us to buy, to do things, to consume. So at the end, our main relationship becomes extremely low and trivial. It becomes transactions, we're buying stuff. And even our relationship with our mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and the community becomes transactional, because we are fed this idea of consumerism, not only on the level of objects and material, but also on the level of relationship, untangible values, which are the relationships. So it becomes transactional. I do this, you do that, I do that, I do this. So that's an unfortunate part of the society. So now we go to the sources of guidance. The sources of guidance are very clear. The Quran is the main one, so it requires like a contemplative sessions for an individual to kind of understand what the Quran is meaning. The second source of guidance is Ahlillbait, the dua. It's very clear. One, if we reflect upon it, understand what it's meant, look at the historical part, look at the structural part of the dua, what is meant to that. And al-aql, the main tool to guidance is using our heads, our hearts and brain. And unfortunately, when I describe my day, is that throughout the day, I am kind of muyassar. I don't really use my brain because I go to work, come back from work, do this, do that. I have specific tasks that I have to go through every day, so it becomes a routine. When it becomes a routine, you don't use your head anymore. It becomes something that you see every single day. So this is also an internal chatter inside me, and this causes me not to be guided at the end. Sources of support, and that is quite important. The sources of support, parents, friends, and community. And I think these are the tools that any youth can grow through, and it's very important. I can elaborate on them. Inshallah, every time I say inshallah, I'm writing that book about the youth in the West and all this activism stuff. And I'm writing about the sources of support and how community, how parents can actually drive through this timing within a youth in order to kind of make changes to the experience of that youth. And it's very important. The important is not the information that you give the person, it's the experience that he's going to live. How much you're going to feed into him directly or indirectly an experience. Once he feels the experience, he's going to believe in it. And once he believes in it, he's going to be steadfast on it. And that's really important. So these are the three sources of support. I'm not going to go more into details. And I want to go on the last item that I had. Just about. Okay. So I wrote this in French because we had it at bridges, but I can trust it in English. So I spoke about, I'm going to speak about it just a bit, maybe 5-10 minutes, about the vicious cycle. The vicious cycle of conflicts. When a conflict starts. Usually a conflict starts based on prejudice or stereotypes. Meaning, let's say, for example, of Mostafa, I have a prejudice against Mostafa. Meaning that, let's say, there's an argument on something, on today's presentation, I say, no, we have to do this, and he says, no, do we do that? So, and then I feel some anger inside me, and I start building prejudice against Mostafa, and say, oh, Mostafa is mutakabbir. Okay? So when I build that prejudice against Mostafa, Mostafa is going to feel it. And he may even see it on me if I kind of aggress. So if I say a bad word, or just do a bad movement against Mostafa, or anything that is bad, he's going to feel it, touch it. He's actually going to say, okay, what's going on? So if Mostafa actually going to react to that, it feeds into a cycle, and then I react into it, and he reacts into it. So this is what I wanted to present. It's the vicious cycle of conflicts. And that's very important. This needs to be stopped in any time, in any conflict. When you live a conflict between individuals, the initiator of the stoppage is very important. The person who has fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must stop the cycle. So the cycle is basically, it's in French, ce qui renforce les assumptions négatives. Commence par les assumptions négatives envers les autres. So you feed into a negative cycle. So there's a reaction, action, reaction, action, and it grows up. It becomes a big, big snowball. This requires maybe some managers and stuff like that. They know this. When they see their employees, they're fighting on something, even something that is something trivial, they have to stop that in a way. They have to give a real strong stop to it. And sometimes when you deal with your third person, it's easy to stop it, but when you're two, it's a bit more difficult. It requires some God-fearing. So that's just an introduction on this, if you go up. So how to build trust, and that is extremely important. The trust is not built through information, as I also said about the experience of a child. Trust is built through action. So be on it, be honest. So be honest with people is when you transact with individual, they have to feel that you're honest with them. You say what you feel and you tell them exactly how you feel in a very honest and polite way. And if there is something that you have to do, you just honestly do it, or you honestly say to the individual, I just can't do it. When the other individual feels that honesty, it builds a point of trust. The second point is continuity and an alignment of the actions. So you're an individual that you want to influence others. You have to be continuous in your action, and you have to align everything. When I say continuity, meaning, let's say if I come to the masjid every day and do some work, I have to continue on coming to the masjid and do the work. I have to make people have a certain trust in me that, okay, that individual comes to the masjid, so he's kind of involved in the masjid. So there's a trust. If there's something that I need to from the masjid, I will approach that individual. So there's a trust building. And an alignment of action. And the alignment of action meaning that, let's say, if I do a certain work that way, and I believe in it, just continue on. Don't jump around. If I say, tomorrow I'm going to do this, and it's something good, obviously, it's not something bad. I'm going to give $100 to a charitable organization. You must do it. If you have that intention of doing it, try to force yourself of doing that good action. Just a simple example. Be realistic. I think individuals that are realistic build a much more higher trust when individual or not. Live with reality. I mean, if things can happen, it can happen. If it can't happen, it's not going to happen. So meaning that if I can give another example, if you wanna build a friendship with an individual, if you can't see that individual during your life, you can't because of constraint of time, let's say distance, environment, etc. It's just not going to happen because there's nothing that is intersecting. Mushtarakat, it's not there between you. So be realistic about your aim and goals and what you want to do. Application de notre croyance. So whatever you say has to be applied, and that is a huge issue within, I would say, I have to say it, within the parents community, unfortunately. Often we give our sons and daughters a lot of, yeah, I'm going to do this for you tomorrow, but it never happens. Yes, I'm going to do that for you. So there's a lot of wu'ud, but it doesn't go. And it's very unfortunate. And it's at the level of families, at the level of community, and you see that often. And this destroys the trust. It diminishes the trust big time. When you actually you apply what you say. Let's say at a community level, you want to buy a chair. The chair costs $100, and you say, well, I'm going to buy that chair. But in reality, you only have $10. If you have $10, don't say, I'm going to buy that chair. You're not going to buy it, so don't say it. It's very important, because the moment that you say that you're going to buy a $100 chair, but you can't afford, and you don't buy it, at the end, it destroys the trust of the people. They're not going to trust you as an individual, and they're not going to trust the organization as an organization, etc. But that's just a trivial example. It could be different other examples. And the last point is compassion. Envers les autres. Islam taught us to be compassionate. So people who are sick, we have to kind of at least ask about them if we know. Obviously, if we don't know, we don't know. The people who fall ill or people who are in need, they don't have their parents, they're orphans, des orphelins, moins fortunés, people who have less education. We need to be compassionate with them in order for them to build trust within the community. All these points are actually derived from different ayat from the Quran, and it's not the point for me to actually go back. It's going to be very long, but I wanted to give a summary of what's anti-community and what are the points that are actually pro-community. Most of what I've said here, it's going to be in the book, inshallah. God willing, if time is available, it's going to happen soon, inshallah. So now I'm going to give the mic to my brother Reza Farashta, and مسحوب بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So, Brother Mostafa introduced the subject. Okay, he mentioned what are the roots of community, how is the word formed in English, in Arabic. So now we have an understanding of what the word is. We also have an understanding of its dimensions when it comes to socio-economic relations with what Brother Muhammad mentioned. There's one aspect that is very interesting when it comes to community, because it's a word that has been used often in the Quran, but at the end of the day, what is our life? Okay? Imagine yourself, if you were in an island and there was no one else, what would be your role in life? Your role would be still the same. It is your journey towards Allah. You're still going towards Allah. So if we define our journey towards Allah, we are going towards Him. Often, one of the examples that is given, to paraphrase, we say, life is like an exam. Okay, you pass the exam now, and you'll see the result later. So now, I think that maybe most of us here, we have been to school. Okay? Now imagine yourself, I'm taking that example just for you to understand the role of community. If you are in school, okay, and you have a perfect teacher, let's imagine a perfect teacher. You all have been to school. Imagine who was your favorite teacher. Keep that in mind. You're seated there, and there's your favorite teacher. Now you're learning the lessons with him, and then there is the exam. Even if you've studied everything, sometimes there are moments that come that there's a question, you know the answer, it can be different things, and you're like, which one should I say? Which one? Maybe it's A, maybe it's B, maybe it's C, and maybe there's a reason for all of them. So what do you do then? Most of the times, what you do is, if I was the teacher, what would this sentence mean? What would the teacher at this point expect from me? Right? We often say, I think the teacher would have done that, so I will write that. So what do you do? In order to become the best of yourself, you put yourself in the shoes of the teacher. You put yourself in the shoes of the teacher and you say, if I was the teacher, I think I would expect this from my student. And this is how you reply. Now if, for example, this teacher is your favorite teacher, okay? What do you want to do your entire life? Whenever you go to school, you want to impress the teacher. You want to be the closest to the teacher. And one of the signs that will reveal who is the favorite of the teacher is that, let's say that you are having a class and there's a principal that comes. The principal that comes and he says to the teacher, I want to talk to you for 10 minutes. What will the teacher do? He will select his most trusted student and will say, you look after them. So he will see the best student that he thinks. What will he see? He will see who is among my student has the best qualities to represent me, right? To represent me for what? For the benefit of others. So a teacher reacts like that. Now, try to apply this in your life with relation to God and relation to the Ummah. What it means is that when you are looking at your life as a journey towards God, okay, if you are comparing that perfect teacher and you're saying that God is actually my perfect teacher, I'm his student, I'm his slave, I'm his creation, my goal should always be to be the closest to him. So if I'm comparing myself in that same example, the closest, the definition perhaps, the definition of the one who is closest to God is perhaps the one that manifests God's attributes to the most within the people that surround him. It is exactly the same thing. We are all attributes of God. We are all, a sign of God. So who is the one that is the closest to God? Actually, the one that is the closest to God is the one that manifests the most the attributes of God. And how do we see that? Often when you go in the mosque, you will see that there are portraits with 99 names of Allah. So you can ask yourself, okay, we gave so many definitions of community, and if I'm a youth and I'm going to go home, I want one practical thing. Maybe I want a take-home message. If you sit in your bed tonight, whatever age you are, whether you are 5 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, 16, 17, 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever, you look at the 99 names of Allah and you see, how can I manifest them in my life? How can I be the translation of this name in action? And if you can do that, then you will be the closest to God. Now the question is, this is one thing when it comes to community. The question that I ask you is, sometimes there are verses in the Quran or in Dua in which our Imams are asking complete solitude from anything other than Allah. Okay, in Munajat Shabaniyah, for example, Imam Ali says, "O Allah, grant me complete severance from anything other than you, so that I may tear the veils of light, I can see your light, and I can come to you." So how can we bring the two together? In one verses of Quran, we mentioned that community is important, helping others is important, but now in Munajat Shabani, Imam Ali is saying, no, I want complete severance from anything other than God. I just want God. So what do we do? How can we bring those apparent contradictions together? Amongst the youth, is there anyone who can tell me how do we bring those two ideas together? How do we solve this problem? One of which Imam Ali is saying, I want to detach myself from anything other than God, and then he's the first one to go and help the poor. So how do we solve this contradiction?
It's not contradiction.
No, but I'm asking the youth, how do you solve that? Is there a contradiction? Is it the same thing? What is Imam Ali meaning actually? Because these are his words. When he's saying, grant me complete severance, detach me from anything other than God, what does he mean? Does he mean I'm going to go in a cave and I'm going to spend all my life there and worship? What does he mean? it means that there is no actually contradiction like the elders are saying. There is no contradiction. It is actually the meaning of Tawheed by helping others is to have complete detachment from others. Why? It means that you are not doing this for the sake of yourself or for the sake of any other. You are doing this just for the sake of Allah. It doesn't mean that you stop doing it. It means that your intention should always be to please Allah. This is the link between the true Tawheed and helping others. It is not in contradiction. So if anyone, no matter how spiritual he is, comes to you and tell you want to reach Allah, detach yourself from the community, stay within yourself, do your dhikr, this is not, you will go nowhere. This is not the path of Ahlillbait. The path of Ahlillbait is to be the first to serve others, but always with the intention of pleasing Allah. So if we try to conclude, what it is that Allah is expecting from us when it comes to community, first of all, He is expecting from us to manifest His names, His attributes within the community. So when we say that God is the sustainer, the one that is closest to God is the one that sustains the community. When we say that God is just, the one that is closest to God is the one that manifests His justice in His action. When we say that God, He is merciful, if you want to be close to God, you have to manifest that mercy in the community. Always like that. When we talk about the Ulul Azam, why did Allah give that rank to those prophets? If you study their lives, they're probably those who had to show the most patience with their community. So if Allah is saying that I am ranking my prophets based on what they did for their community, it means that for God, if there's a scale of who is the best, who has more light, who has more ma'arifah, it's always based on how that person can serve the creation, how that person can reflect and manifest Allah's attribute so that people can see Him and say, yes, there's a God. Yes, this is the mercy from God. So now if we try to bring everything together, we see that there was the definition of what the Ummah is, the problems, community, anti-community, then the spiritual reality of the Muslim and its relationship with Allah, and how the community becomes a vehicle. It becomes the fire which gives light to your faith. Otherwise, alone, you're not going to reach anywhere. If we bring all of those things together, what are we expected to do today? Today we are expected as individuals, as communities, as families, as nations, to be the flag bearer of social justice and social reform. So today, ideally, if you study the akhlaq of the Ahlillbait on paper, if tomorrow there would be an idea to reform the society to become a perfect society, if tomorrow there is an idea that we say, in this country, in this nation, in this city, there is someone that brought this justice, on paper, it should be one of the followers of Ahlillbait. Because you guys have the best tools to do it. When you go logically, you have a look at an exam and you see who's the best student. It is very rare that the best student is the one that studied least. It's not logical. Maybe sometimes it happens. But over the year, you will see the most serious person will be those that will have the best grades. Okay? It's very logical. If you go outside, you see a very nice building, you will say that the nicest building is the one in which the best materials are used. Okay? So whenever you are expecting the best result, you have to have the best tools. when it comes to society, if you want the best society, you have to have a look at where are the best tools. And in this life, the best tools are with you. With the akhlaq of the Ahlillbait, with the Quran, you guys should be. I'm talking to the youth, next generation, you should be those that tomorrow if there is someone that stands up for justice, we should hear your name. That tomorrow if there is anyone that stands up for the oppressed, it should be you. It is your book that says that you have to safeguard the orphans. It is your book that says that you have to safeguard the elders. It is your imam that says how to respect the parents. It is your imam that says how to respect the kids. This is your heritage. So tomorrow, if anyone that you see in the street that is oppressed, you should be the first one to stand up and say, no, I stand up for this because this is what my heritage is. Okay? You have to embody that. So inshallah, when we as individuals, as families, and as communities, we actually embody all of that we spoke, only then inshallah, our imam will perhaps think that now the community is ready for me to come, and inshallah, we are just waiting for his return. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
So if there's any question, French, Arabic, English.
Farsi for the European speakers. Not only questions, if you have any comments as well.
Thank you very much really for your talk, and it's very important. I'm going to try to speak English just for you. So I want to talk about some points, very important points that were not evoked in your talk. The first point is the historic issues with the community. So the changes in any society are made by the community. It's not by individuals, but by community and groups who have ideas, projects, goals, and this is what you were talking about when you talk about links in any community. The second point is about the individuals. There is individuals in the community, in any society or community, and there is groups and the community, because within any community there is small communities made by different links which are between the individuals of this community. And the individuals affect the community, but the community affects much more the individuals. And that's why there is no contradiction between the individual level and the collective level, because there is a dialectical relation or link between the two levels, but the influence, the effect of the community is much more important, because the community gives to the individuals the sights, the goals, the perspective. So when you read the Quran, there is an important individual dimension, but this dimension is linked with God, and nobody is about to talk about it, because it's like a private relationship. But the more important is your relationship with the community, with the others. And we know that, for example, we say that ad-din wal-mu'amala. So the religion is what you made what you make with the others, what not possession, but really everything. So your everyday actions with the others. The other point is, excuse me. Okay, it's about the anti-community. You know, there is no anti-community. There is different conceptions of links between the individuals and the goals, about the goals which really, how to say, qu'il faut agir. Ok. Parce que les autres, parce qu'on a des gens qui ne comprennent pas le français ici, donc c'est moi qui... Ok. Donc, c'est pas qu'il y a des anti-communautés, mais c'est au niveau du lien qu'on établit dans toute organisation sociale. Donc, par exemple, ici, dans une société occidentale, le lien fondamental, c'est le lien économique. Donc, pratiquement, dans tout le mouvement d'une société, il est concentré sur donc, ce qu'on fait économiquement, sur l'organisation économique. Et on sait très bien maintenant que l'organisation économique, elle vient même avant l'organisation politique. Et tout le construit social, il est fondé sur donc, ces relations-là. Donc, ce que vous avez appelé anti-communauté, c'est au fond une autre conception du rapport et du lien entre les gens. Donc, et ça s'inscrit dans l'éternelle et dans l'historique relation entre le khayr et le shar, entre le bien et le mal, et aussi entre les forces qui veulent donc exploiter l'être humain et les forces qui veulent qu'il soit lui-même maître de lui-même, et pour nous comme musulmans qu'il soit seul, donc être maître de lui-même, c'est être donc seul esclave du Dieu à lui seul. Donc c'est ce que Reza, il en a parlé de ça. Donc ce qui fait qu'il n'y a pas d'anticommunauté, mais il y a des projets de communauté, il y a des perspectives, et il y a toujours des perspectives négatives, des perspectives qui veulent, donc, comme on l'a dit, exploiter l'être humain. Il y a des perspectives, et la perspective musulmane ou la perspective croyante, elle est fondamentalement libératrice de l'être humain, de tout lien avec, que ce soit avec les choses qui peuvent affecter sa liberté, qui peuvent affecter donc son être négativement, pour essayer de l'élever donc vers un niveau, d'humanité qui lui permet d'être très bénéfique pour la communauté. Merci.
Should we translate the French part for those by show of hands? I know we're getting as well late. If there's anyone who would like to have either approach the brother, or we can do the translation later. Is there any other questions or comments?
I just want to raise a quick hint about the topic. It's related to the community. As you said, the community, the meaning of community is the people that gather together by a common thing that can be religion. It's the first thing that comes in my mind by hearing the word of community. I know that the community you mentioned is a community based on religion, not the culture, but I just criticize myself or maybe some other people here. By hearing the word of community, we just maybe if we focus on what we understand from this word, we say, okay, maybe we say that the community based on the culture is more heavier than the community based on the religion, which is much more important for us. It was just a criticize, and I wanted to bold it to everybody, maybe to think about it more.
Thank you so much. Any more comments? Now then, we thank you very much for your attention and for given us the podium. Inshallah, we can benefit from your wisdom in another occasion as well. So we stand to, inshallah, just conclude with a dua. Inshallah, we can. Did you have anything? Oh, so there's going to be an announcement just after the dua. So inshallah, we can just stand, inshallah, for dua faraj. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم allow us to form the best of communities in order to be able to hasten the appearance of our awaited Imam Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farjahu Sharif برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Pay attention for that.
So today is, you guys may have heard about one of the project that we've announced 2 weeks ago, which called Projet de Labo Clinique. So basically it's a day spent at the lab, and it's based on a selection process where people send their CVs and a paragraph of why they want to participate in the project. So the project is basically one selected candidate will come at the lab at the MUHC, and I'm going to introduce all the labs and the lab work in general. And the person will actually do a presentation, probably at the MYM or even here, and he's going to be paid for that. It's very important for a few items and why this project is initiated. The first thing is the people who did not have the chance actually to prepare their CVs and do a paragraph. One of the major processes of getting a job is basically prepare a good CV and prepare a cover letter. So those who actually in the future, especially the young ones, and inshallah I'll try to mention it in different like younger generation meetings, is that it's very important for them if they want to have a good job or think about a good future, a good career, good entre parenthèses, within parentheses, they need to prepare a CV and they need to have a cover letter. So that's kind of a lesson taught to the ones who don't have a CV ready. And those who had a CV and actually were selected based on the quality of the CV and the quality of why they have the intention of actually getting into that project. So the project will pay that individual a certain amount, and he or she will get participate in a presentation about the project. And I'll inshallah be helping that individual from different aspects, not only on the scientific part, but also the maybe a bit of the spirituality behind what's going on within a laboratory. So the person that has been selected is Tasneem Naji, and she's not here today. She's been selected, inshallah. I'm gonna communicate with her, and she's gonna come in for a day of our observation. I already organized everything with my manager, so she knows the manager. And inshallah also after that project, she's gonna have a letter. She's gonna have that letter put in her CV, so it's going to help her out. And inshallah, we're looking forward to do different other projects similar to that, or something in the vicinity that is something that would have the youth experience certain causes, or actually practice certain stuff. We also have some haram programs within the Shia community overall. There are some outreach program coming up to help the general society in Montreal, and there's could be presentations and stuff like that. So that is said, I would like to thank everybody. Thank the brothers, Brother Mostafa El-Diwany and Brother Reza Farashta, for the excellent presentation. I would like to thank the parents, the elderly, the brothers and sisters, the young kids, and the youngsters who attended. And I would like to thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.